Well, hello, beautiful magical friend. Welcome back to Walking in Magic and this very special series called Everyday Magic. This is the third video in the series, and I want to remind you that we have a bunch of extra free resources and goodies, including those that I'm going to refer to for today's video and conversation about words and wands. Tons of free resources if you follow the link in the description for Everyday Magic. Today we're talking about words and wands. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite topics as a bit of a word witch myself, a title that I have come to claim and feel into. I love having the conversation about words being agents of magic. And I wrote something this morning that is also part of the printable, and I'll share here with you. It says, our words can inspire, they create new worlds. Our words swirl with energy as they emerge and unfurl. Bring your words to the surface. Let them cast their magic spell. It's for you and for me and the whole world as well. And there's so much whimsy and sort of charm to this little it's almost like a blessing, an incantation, a spell in itself, and a reminder of how precious our words are. So today we're going to talk about a couple of practices that we can do to weave our words and understand the power of words in our everyday life. If there's anything I would love for you to be inspired by and take away from our conversation today, it is that words are powerful. Tend to your words, the words you tell yourself, the words you cast off into the world, and use your words to create. If you have something bubbling within you, maybe it's a poem, a book, a short story, even things like writing emails and newsletters to a prospective audience, writing posts, writing to share your truth. Few things will crack us as open and be as vulnerable as writing to share our truth. And so if you have any of those words bubbling up within you and wanting to come to the surface, I would love to encourage you to lean in, to take a chance and take a leap of faith and do it. By the way, I will mention that the past 2 live videos, there were so many beautiful comments that happened throughout the video, but I had to click a little button that said I'll basically play the replay of the comments after the video, after the live stream was completed. And I didn't click that. I thought it was clicked automatically, but today I did. So whatever comments are part of this live conversation, you will be able to see as you watch the video. Of the other 2, unfortunately, no. So if you commented something in the other ones and you want to drop it in this one for posterity, go ahead and do that if you happen to be watching live or watching the replay. And again, thank you for being here, liking, subscribing, sharing, and for being part of this experience of expanding our magic. So one of the things that I love to do, and it's one of the things I was most excited actually to share with everybody as part of Everyday Magic, which is you'll have to go into the link to get this one because I want you to experience all the goodies. But if at the very least you want to get this one thing, it's oh so simple, but has been incredibly delightful practice for me. And it is the practice of seeing my creating utensils, the pens that I like, pens, pencils, brushes, seeing them all, highlighters, seeing them as wands, referring to them as wands. I have a Patreon where I share, I share community there. Hello to all my fellow patrons. Thank you so much for supporting my. We did a few weeks ago was a ritual around. It was called Gather Your Wands, and it was a ritual around just that, gathering all the things that we use to create with, and specifically to write in this instance for today's video, and actually charging them with your intentions, seeing them as a wand with which you create new things. And so I have this little incantation that's part of the resources that I wrote a few weeks ago. And it happened to be during a very fortuitous moment in time with Mercury in Virgo, Mercury being the planet of communication in Virgo, its home sign. He's very happy there. He will be switching signs soon and moving into some new territory with Libra, which will be interesting because there it just makes me think of how we build bridges via our communication, which is also a fantastic magical mindset to bring into the fold, is how your words are able to connect and build bridges. So it's actually a really wonderful time if you're looking to begin connecting with others as Mercury ingresses into Libra, which will be happening in the next few days. So when we see these as wands and we imbue magic into them and understand the magic that they have, whatever regular pen we're talking about. I also love, I have a fountain pen somewhere that I absolutely love writing with and, doing more calligraphy and fun things like that. But the whole idea and the premise is that we place our intention and charge these utensils. And it's not about being so precious with like the one pen. It's more about the energy and the connection that you have with the pen that you write with. You may be asking, but MA, what about keyboards? Well, keyboards are wands too. Basically, anything that supports you in bringing your words to the surface and out into the world is your wand, as far as I'm concerned. So words are wands themselves because you can cast a spell with them. In my email to Everyday Magic community this morning, I was sharing about the connection between spell and spellings. Hello, nice to see you, Celtic Peasant. Thanks for your comment yesterday, by the way. I did see that one. So there's this connection between like, spelling connected to spells. Well, I love looking up the etymology and the origin of words, and I discovered that they're not directly connected because the word spell has like 3 different branches of how it came to be, depending on different countries of origin and the time that it first appeared. And so they don't have a direct link in their actual technical origin, but how incredible to live with the premise that our words and the idea of spelling is connected to spells. And so think about your words as agents for you to help you weave new realities, for you to express, oh, hey, Zoe. Oh, good to see you. Hi. Okay. Now I'm connecting the dots. So your words help you weave new worlds together. They help you express yourself. They help you unbox and unload, right? And dump out whatever is in you that wants to be healed in the light of day. And we could see that as doing the shadow work of feeling into something that really triggers you in some way, and then finding the words, voice it out within yourself, like voice it out and write it out. There's something about bringing your feelings from the shadows into the light, and doing part of that is shadow work, which we are constantly, I think, encouraged to do the more we walk embracing the mystery of life and the unknown, and being in this space where we're constantly co-creating with the universe and asking ourselves the big questions. And it's a wonderful place to be. And it can also be a very, what do I want to say? I guess it feels sometimes scary or overwhelming because the questions keep coming. And I think the more that we can reduce the fear around the unknown and the mysterious, the more we will find the meaning within the possible, the questions and the mysterious, and be more comfortable in it. And words can be a wonderful agent for you to be able to express things that are hidden underneath. And these can be words that you never share with anybody, that are just for you, or they can be words that you end up sharing with somebody that's close to you, or hey, maybe even the world will end up being impacted by your light through your words. So The first practice is that idea of looking at your writing utensils. If you write on a tablet, like, on your iPad, and that's where you write, that's where you plan, that's where you create, look at your stylus, your digital devices also as wands. And it just adds a different dimension of meaning. And as humans, we are constantly looking, I think, to be nourished by meaning. Our souls crave meaning. And when we've been living in the world that kind of wants to put us on a certain track, and you just sort of put your head down and keep going day by day by day by day by day, we end up losing a lot of the magic and certainly the mystery of being open to things that can't, maybe aren't as obvious, but feel delightful and feel like there's something more. Another wonderful practice is just keeping a journal. As sort of basic as that sounds, I have found that one of the things that has had the most impact on me has been keeping a journal with me, that I not only use it as a journal, but I write poetry, I write spells, I'll do watercolor in here. I will, cut things out that make my heart sing and paste them in here. And this becomes this living, breathing companion for me. I talked a little bit about it in Sacred Sanctuary. I also consider this one of my sanctuaries where I go to find myself again and to reconnect with myself. And I noticed over the past few years, as things changed and shifted, and my commitments and responsibilities were evolving very quickly because of personal challenges at home, there were moments when I would not approach my journal, call it journal, grimoire, book of shadows, catch-all beautiful notebook of ideas and dreams, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't be in it, and I would just sort of left it. And there were a period of a few months that I was really tapped out emotionally and physically and mentally, and had barely any bandwidth for much else. And so it's a practice that I didn't follow. And then I decided to re-engage with it, to re-engage with this medium as a form of self-expression, and to really tend to it as much as I could in moments throughout the day. Sometimes it's just a little quick line that I write, and sometimes I'll sit for a longer period of time. I also love, for those of you who are looking for other magical systems to capture your thoughts, I love working with Google Keep or the Notes app. And I personally use Google Keep. And so when I'm on the go and I don't have my book with me, because I usually leave it at home, I will write there on the phone and we'll capture thoughts, and then we'll sometimes then bring them in here and expand on them a little bit further, or just leave them there. And then I can do a word search and kind of find what I've written. And I can categorize them as poems or channeled pieces, or, intuitive nudges, or just, future emails or future videos, whatever that may be. So the practice of having a space for you to unload and renew and refresh is vital. And so combine those two, where you charge your writing utensil and then have your practice of expressing through the written word. I think there's a lot of magic, and leaning into it. And maybe it's a practice you already have, but it's become automatic. Notice whatever's become like too automatic, that you just do it because you're like, well, it's part of my morning routine or my this routine. Or take a look at it from a new perspective. Shift the energy around it. Magic is essentially the movement of energy, the belief that we can move, transmute, transform the energy within us and around us. And so perhaps your writing or journaling practices Same goes for your planning practices, your calendars, and all that stuff. Maybe they could use a bit of a refresh, a shift in perspective. Perhaps bring in some other creative prompts that may not be a part of your everyday flow, but will no doubt trigger and inspire something new in you. Um, there's a lot of magic, just like we were talking yesterday about symbols. Like symbols sometimes can awaken something dormant within you. I believe that creative writing prompts can also do the same thing and can potentially uncork and reveal something that you end up writing that you did not think you would ever come out any other way. And so that's really powerful. And to that end, I have a video. It's called Choose Your Adventure. It's within the Everyday Magic portal. Again, the link is in the description. It's totally free, with my dear friend and fellow creatrix, Sage Adderley. She is among many magical things that she is. She is an author, and she's also a writing coach. She coaches women to basically create their empowered projects in different dimensions, one of which is writing fiction, nonfiction. She's fantastic. So I asked her, and we did this live together, recorded it, and it came out really awesome. We did an exercise and a creative prompt of what would your magical story look like? So we're not writing the whole story, but what we are doing is we are pulling some of the initial threads around what your story could be like. And I believe doing that practice, giving yourself the chance to do that, will reveal something about you, about your beliefs, about your goals and dreams that maybe you haven't expressed before. So that is a really powerful catalyst for getting your words out and creating new worlds with your words. That phrase, creating new worlds, has been very, very top of mind for me. And typically when that happens, it's because there's something I'm tapping into in the collective experience that is just like it's ripening. There's something about it. And today, as I was writing that little bit about our words can inspire and they create new worlds, our words swirl with energy as they emerge and unfurl. The image that came to me was like words blooming and blossoming, like flowers. And this idea that there is so much, again, power in that transference of energy. And so if you have any inkling to write, and typically when we want to write something, we can have all of these blocks around perfectionism, imposter syndrome, not being trained as a writer, or not being, obviously writing is it's something that we master over time. And I have so much respect for the craft. But what I'm suggesting is that sometimes, even if it comes to writing maybe a poem that comes through your soul in your journal, we will be so hard on ourselves and such perfectionists, and just, find all the ways that's not correct, and all the ways we could be better, and all the ways that we're not enough to fill in the blank. And so if you have words bubbling underneath the surface that your soul wants to get out, I say share them with the world. Let's see. Let me read a couple of comments here. Tasha says, a word thing I try to be mindful of is not to wish people luck, but success, giving agency and no reliance on the whims of fate. Beautifully said, in terms of your own, like, you're expressing your belief systems through your words and giving people agency. I love that. Maud says, hello from France. Hello. Nice to see you. Wonderful to see you guys here. Thank you for joining. So, noticing how, the words that we share on a page, okay, that's one thing. We charge our wands, we imbue this magic in them, this sense of delight. We give meaning, right, to things, and that really nourishes our soul. Even those little acts that we do, being very mindful of the words that you express. First of all, the words you tell yourself, the words we tell ourselves, how we talk to ourselves is very indicative of the feelings we have. And my goodness, we can be our worst critics And I love the very simple practice of, let's say you're going through something challenging, or you're beating yourself up about something, and just switching it to, oh, if I was telling this to a dear friend, a child, my child, how would I convey this information? And just that shift in perspective is enough to transmute the energy, because then we realize how not caring for ourselves shows up in the most insidious ways. Complaining is one that, while I think venting and sharing experiences is really priceless, especially in community, there is a very different energetic charge when you are caught in complaining. And unfortunately, as a society, we create we've created this sort of bad habit, and expectation that most of what we share with each other at times is complaints. Complaints and negativity becomes a currency of your worth. Just think about that. Notice how that might show up in your life and in what you hear from others. And we're not placing any judgment. We are being like super graceful here with ourselves and everybody around us. Everybody has their own experience. You never know what somebody else is going through. But making the choice to veer towards optimism that is genuine. Notice that optimism is not about toxic positivity. It's not a hiding of our true feelings. Optimism is more along the lines of this visionary thinking and perspective that has us looking towards in our current reality and towards the future with a sense of hope and possibility. Knowing that as hard as things are, they can always get better, and that even if getting better is not really what's happening, and I know this very intimately, what we can do is we can heal a lot of what our soul is experiencing through the challenges we face. So the words that we choose to express to ourselves, to those around us, are really precious reminders of the constant moment by moment choices that we're making. The choice to veer towards optimism, which all this beautiful research shows that optimism is something that can absolutely be learned, practiced. And again, it's not toxic positivity. It's not a hiding of true feelings. It's quite the opposite. It is very honest and very raw and very vulnerable to be optimistic, to see hope. And for many of us who are wired to see hope, right? To see the light, even in the darkness, it could be especially challenging to approach the world with that viewpoint and that belief system, because the world around us will tell us that we're being naive and that we're being Pollyannas and that we're being, we don't get it or whatever. And it could be really harsh. And so it requires a lot of courage and inner knowing. And this is where, again, the magical practices and how you breathe magic into your life, meaning your own understanding of your unique frequency and how you are interacting with the world all the time. If magic, we see it as this sort of word that encompasses our sense of how we are connecting and interacting with the energy around us, within us and around us, and how we are moving that energy in favor of the highest good for our life and everybody else around us, then that to me is a very real place to ground yourself into and know that what you're going through and the cycles that you're going through and the experiences that you choose to embrace with a different perspective will alter the fabric of the energy around you. I hope this is making sense, and I hope that it's landing for you guys. And I'd love to hear in the comments what's resonating for you. Magic and the understanding of our spiritual multidimensional beings, and how whatever those words are for you is a vast, vast ocean of discovery. And it's just beautiful to sit in the questions and sit in the mystery. We don't have to find solutions for everything, because when you're playing with co-creating with the here and now and really interacting with what's unfolding, there is no script necessarily. The script is sort of a more linear path that we may have been trained to follow and conditioned to follow, but then we veer off in new directions, and therefore you are veering off into unknown territory that is all your own. And that will bring up more questions, and we have to be willing to sit in that unknown and sit in the mystery of it. And I do believe, going back to the words, that our words can help us make sense, how we express ourselves for ourselves, and maybe then in favor of our ideas that are expressed out into the world, absolutely, absolutely matter. Let me read some of the comments here. I see some hellos. Beautiful. I think that little children are naturally optimistic most of the time, not all, but most. We need to bring out the little child that knows the next thing they do will be wonderful, that tomorrow will be exciting, that there are fairies in the woods. Zoe, I love that so much. I love seeing the world through the eyes of my 6, soon to be 7-year-old son, and the way he finds meaning in things and the way he expresses things. It just always brings me back to this very authentic and, yes, optimistic experience. Children more and more are coming, they're wired to see the world through a different lens, and they have, I think, I would hope, and through the work that we're doing generationally, right? We are clearing a lot of debris that we've been hanging on to. So the more work that we do of just clearing old stagnant beliefs and shifting things and opening ourselves up to new understanding of what's around us, the more the little ones will be able to keep that optimistic frequency, I think, longer, hold on to it longer, so that it doesn't get worn away by the trials and tribulations that we will no doubt face in our lives. Yeah. So let's do a quick little recap here. Words are powerful. I hope you agree, and I hope that you explore that realm. The idea of charging your wands and the utensils that you use to write and create with. The idea of expressing through the written word, whatever medium you decide to use, that's totally up to you. Being mindful of the words that we choose to tell ourselves and others. And then the last thing I want to add is the words that we read through storytelling. Stories and storytelling are some of the most ancient, primordial, incredible force of it's stories connect us. It's hard to find the words. Words and wands. It's hard to find the words for stories. Stories connect us. Stories inspire us. Stories help us understand ourselves better. Stories and storytelling. This is the most ancient form of communication around the bonfire where we shared, and how information was passed along, whether it's through stories, songs, poems, anything that has been shared and expressed through the medium of using our voice and our words carries a lot of power. I'll touch briefly also on the power of your voice in terms of your self-expression. And I'm going to add here a little element of Venus. I love working with Venus, and Venus has been traversing through this incredible quest from the beginning of the year, sign by sign. She's currently in the sign of Leo, and she will transition out of Leo into Virgo on October 8th as I record this. So Venus, this incredible planet and archetype of love, peace, harmony, self-worth. If you want to tend to your self-worth story and shift it, work with Venus, and she will show you, and she will help you grow yourself and grow and glow in your own experience of how understanding how worthy you truly are. Venus has been in Leo, doing a lot of work in Leo. And Leo is the sign of expression. It's the sign of the performer. It's the sign of creativity. It's a sign of literally roaring, sharing your words, your voice, your truth. Leo is a sign of incredible courage of the heart, of truth, and of really standing for something that we believe in and doing so in a way that is joyful, optimistic, childlike, and innocent. So there is the truth and the power of you approaching things with an eye of optimism and innocence is quite an incredible thing to harness. And I think those of us that look at that as a goal to be in that frequency are going to continue to grow and explore the world and ourselves with this sense of openness, just like a child, while we honor and embody the wisdom of what we've learned and the experiences we've gone through. It's a really beautiful alchemical combination of your wisdom and your sense of innocence, knowing what you know and continuing to ask questions and be open to new answers, just like a child, right? Venus has been doing, like I said, a lot of work in Leo, which means that the aspects of you that have to do with your self-worth, with sharing your voice, with being the queen or the king in your own universe, of really being like the sun, the center of your own solar system. Like you are the center and you radiate out like the sun, and you are magnetic like the sun. Venus has been getting dressed in the fine jewels of a queen. And these are jewels that are tangible forms of not only representations of who you are and how you dress yourself in a symbolic way, but how you also share your beauty with the world, the truth of who you are, honoring yourself. Venus is all about the senses. She loves sensory experiences. She's moving now into the sign of Virgo. I call Virgo the sign of your divine discipline, the things that you do every single day, the ways that you commit, the things that you do to take care of your form. It has to do with health, wellness. It has to do with being in service. It's a very grounded sign. So now she is moving into this territory where she is maturing in how she takes care of the day-to-day, knowing that she is the queen in the center of her very own universe. And I just want to share that so that you can see how it resonates for you, what it stirs within you, how it calls you forth, how it maybe challenges you. Pay attention to that as well, those feelings, and how it might help you grow and emerge to share the things you want to share with the world. So it's beautiful transitions that continue to happen. I want to answer a couple of the questions that I've been getting through the Everyday Magic survey that I put out, and I'm so grateful for everybody who's filled it. And one of the questions that came a few times had to do with how I tend to my energy and my sense of what's possible for me, even while I deal with and live under the constant shadow of my husband's illness. My husband was diagnosed with ALS 3.5 years ago. And it's been a journey. And what has kept me, one of those things from a more mystical perspective that has kept me really grounded from the beginning, even in the midst of the harshest, most painful turmoil, is this steadfast belief that my soul chose this experience in this lifetime. Meaning my soul, and I believe his soul and my son, we chose into this particular experience in this lifetime because it was something that was going to help us grow. And that is something that for me reminds me that whatever may come, I am somehow capable of weathering it. And it doesn't mean that it happens all the time. Like, trust me when I tell you that I've, broken apart more times than I can count over the past few years. But I come back to that belief. And I share that with you because perhaps it's something that can support you as well. It's not a fake it till you make it, like, well, if I believe this, then it is something that I hold as true. And it is part of my cosmology in terms of the things and the challenges and the experiences that we have in this lifetime, our soul crafting the story so that it grows us, it cracks us open. Sometimes it's smaller things and sometimes it's really, really profound, hard things. And there's this thread of faith that I have in knowing that my soul knew that this was coming, which means that in some way I am capable of moving through this and bringing myself out of the darkness as well. I also get a lot of very practical support through therapy, where I share my words, through the things that help me express the grief or the joy that I'm moving through, like all the things we talked about. My magical practice, learning how to ask for and receive help, which has been a huge process of growth from the beginning, because I'm someone who's more driven to sort of help others and pour out. And so the pouring in was really hard for me to accept at first, but I've grown to really be okay with that dynamic and understand that giving and receiving is a cycle that we get to embrace both sides of the equation, because if we don't, then we cut off that cycle of giving and receiving. And the other thing, among many, but a mantra that my husband and I share and have talked about we have an Instagram account and our podcast, and we even have a beer named after this. It is right here, right now. Right here, right now. We focus on the moment at hand. We love in the moment at hand. And notice how those words themselves have the ability to soothe, have the ability to inspire me and my husband, have the ability to catalyze us. And sometimes we say them and it's with absolute tears in our eyes and we remind ourselves. And sometimes it's with absolute joy and we remind ourselves that what we're living right here, right now is the most important, because focusing on a future that feels even more painful than where we are now doesn't really serve us. But also knowing who we get to be in each moment in service of those future versions of ourselves is really priceless. What you are building and doing and creating and believing right here, right now, sets the tone and the terrain for the future selves of you that are emerging. If we look at our growth as a spiral and we go up these rings of the spiral, where you are right now and what you're choosing to do. And I believe Venus and Virgo, when we work with her, we will begin to make some choices in terms of our focus, our commitments to ourselves, the daily things that we do that will support a future version of ourselves who will look back and say, thank you. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for believing. Thank you for leaning in. Thank you for continuing on even when it was extra hard. Thank you, because you have created more rungs in the ladder, more stepping stones, more wisdom for me to be better prepared in this moment. So while we don't want to dwell in a future experience, we want to be here, right now. Notice how what you are creating through your words, through your beliefs, through your choices, through the beautiful magic that you create with your pretend wands, notice how those are impacting and see them as a gift for a future version of you. Don't wait. Create. Say the thing. Own it. Own your magic. And find the spaces where you can do that, where you feel nourished and good and happy. And I hope to create this as one of them. I'm going to read a couple of messages here. Tasha says, optimism sees possibility. It only needs small observation. There's always a flower, clouds, a pet, kids, an amazing tree, a scent on the breeze, light to help it grow. Yes, beautifully said. That's part of what kids are able to do. See something new or fresh. Yes, and that's having that like fresh new perspective time and time again is just a gift. And so he says, not only that, but you and your husband become a light and an inspiration to everyone you have lucky to be around you. Thank you so much. I received that. And yeah, so I'm going to wrap it up there. It was a little bit longer than I expected, and we went down some winding roads, but hey, let's trust what's happening in the moment and that it's serving some of us to find those hidden keys and hidden gems to help us on the journey. Thanks again for being here, for liking, subscribing, for sharing your thoughts and your magic with me and with the world. I hope to see you again. We'll be back live tomorrow. And then Friday, we have a closing ceremony for Everyday Magic, which will happen on Zoom. Depending on when you're watching this, you might either come live or you can catch the replay if it's in the distant future. But I do hope to see you again, my friend. And I want to say that if you're inspired to create more magic, to work with me, I have an incredible Patreon community that I just revamped, and I'm really proud of what's cooking over there. And I have an incredible program starting soon called the Creatrix Laboratory, where we are going to take one of your incredible projects that you've been wanting to put out into the world, and we're going to do it together through lots of practice, beautiful practical magic, and ceremonies and rituals and astrology. It's an awesome combination of all the things that I love. And then you can always book a reading with me if you want to get a little bit more familiar with your own astrological imprint and what's written in the stars and how you can write with the stars, right? Like even that, written in the stars. Like what a beautiful quote. It is written in the stars and you are writing along with the stars and the flowers on the earth. And with that, I bid you goodbye. Thank you for being here. All my love and stardust. Adios.